the Argentinians are a very proud, very strong, very robust team, and if you give them a sniff, they're nearly impossible to control.
It's the 6th episode of In the Know, thanks to GIO and Sporting News. This week we thought we'd change things up a little bit. On debut, Wallaby number 774, Nathan Sharpe. How are you feeling, big man? Are you going to rise to the occasion?
Chris, I'm excited, mate. I don't often get a chance to sit down and talk specifically about rugby with someone after a couple of good weekends of test matches, that's for sure.
It's a very good week to be talking about it. So same thing as usual. We're talking a little bit about, obviously, the Springboks game on the weekends. And then touching a little bit on Argentina. So let's get down to it. 30-17. It was a great day to be watching the Wallabies and being an Australia fan. What was your initial takeaways from it?
Oh, look, I think first and foremost, I take my hat off to the team because, the week before I thought the Springboks played particularly poorly. They were really inaccurate and they didn't have that same sort of ferocity in the collisions. So I sort of had a feeling that the second week around that Australia would be under a lot more pressure. And I think the way they came out and approached the game, the strategy around how they attacked the Springboks defence, paid dividends, and they were clearly a stronger team in the second test match. So it was fantastic to watch. And, it was one of those games that was never in doubt really by the intensity with which the Wallabies approached the game.
What I was most surprised about was their defence. I mean, the Wallabies only made them make 69 tackles. They only made 50 of them. Maybe it was because the Wallabies, they had that 94 and 95% tackle rate. They were so good with the Springboks seemed like they were in all sorts.
They did, and the Wallabies through their kicking game was good. A lot of the kicking game was very good tactically. They turned the Springboks around. They made them their defensive structures realign because they were threatening in different areas with which the Springboks don't cope well with in their traditional rush defence. So I thought that was a really good part of the Wallabies game on the weekend in particular. I think they kicked more in attack than they had in any other game, and that certainly helped unravel the Springboks defence. And finally, I just think some of the carrying from the Wallabies, Taniela Tupou, Samu Kerevi was outstanding. And once you get in behind a defensive line, particularly one that likes to rush up, it's very difficult to reformat your defence and go again because you're behind the eight ball.
It's a good opportunity to touch on a few of those players. Taniela Tupou, everyone's been talking about him. How can he not be such an electric player? 78 minutes of game-changing rugby, had a few line breaks, a few defenders beaten, obviously had that amazing pass. Highlight reel stuff from a forward. What's been the key to unlocking him?
Well, look, I don't know Taniela, but I've been a big fan of his for a long period of time. And if I ever met him, I'm going to ask him about why he had to throw it like that. Why couldn't he just do the normal pass? But, we loved it. And I think that, that offers the appeal that Taniela has around the world. Not only is he now a world-class tight head prop, he really is a bit of a unicorn, I think. He is so powerful and strong that he can maintain that right throughout the game. And as he's getting older, I think for a long period of time there, potentially as he got a bit fatigued, he got a little bit inaccurate, gave away a few penalties and the like, but that's really starting to sort of be weaned out of his game. And, Saturday was a tremendous example of that.
Are we building towards something special here, or do you think it was just the right opponent for the game we're playing?
No, I think it's a little bit earlier to sort of start talking about building something special. I'd really like to see the Wallabies close the next two Argentinian games out strongly. They are in a good position. And what I liked about the last 2 weeks' performances is they repeated what they'd done or they'd stepped up again from the week before. And that's typically not been the case with the Wallabies for a long period of time. It's sort of a good performance and then it drops right off and then sort of takes a while to get back up. So I think the next 2 weeks are critical. And from afar, I'm not involved in anything to do with Inner Sanctum, but I can see Dave Rennie really starting to work on that consistency, and selections help that too. So I think you'll start to see a bit more consistency in selections once, as long as players can stay on the field.
The line out, how do you think it's looking right now?
Yeah, I don't think it's consistent enough just yet. They're still finding some combinations there. I really like the last couple of weeks combination with Matt Phillip and Isaac Rodder. I think that's a pretty stable combination. At times, the Wallabies line-out has been a bit wobbly, but if you look at the people in that pack, there's not a lot of continuity between states there. So it does take a little bit of time for them to find their groove. And having said that, whenever you play the Springboks, they're all 7'3" and they've got 5 jumpers. So it's a difficult challenge to win your ball all the time consistently. That's for sure.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Argentina, outclassed by the All Blacks. Is there anything that the Wallabies can take from those losses that they can look to exploit again?
Yeah, I think just the pace at which the All Blacks played, their speed at the breakdown, their attacking kicking game as well, it really puts defences in uneasy positions, and that's what you want. When you're trying to break down defence, you just don't want to present the same situation every single time, so it's not a difficult read for them. If you can break it up and make it difficult for the decision makers in their individual position, it allows that defensive line to be broken down far more easily. So I think variation in play will be really important, and I'd be really disappointed if we went back to a typical field position box kicking type game plan. I think the Argentinians, one of their strengths is their ability to run the ball around. But if you can control the ball with precision and be accurate around the breakdown, there's opportunities to break their defence down.
I want to ask you about Sean McMahon. It's been 4 years since he's played for the Wallabies. He's now back in the setup. We don't know if he's going to be selected or not, but what do you think he brings to the side if he is?
Look, I haven't seen Sean play for a long period of time, but when he was here in Australia, I thought he was, heading in a terrific direction. It's difficult to put him into the current team though. I really like the way Valentini and Swinton have been playing, and let's just park Hoops because he takes care of himself. I just think Valentini and Swinton add that extra bit of size to the back row, and I can certainly see Sean McMahon coming into the game off the bench at some stage. But I think Lockie has shown enough that you've got to reward what he's done and help him through that period where he's a fine line between wanting to hurt people and doing it legally. So I'd stick with Lockie.
All right, you're in the tunnel with the guys. You're about to walk out against the Pumas. What's your final message to the side?
Just focus on the start. Focus on getting the first part of the game right. Well, whatever your first contribution to the team is, just get that right. And if they can focus on playing mistake-free football for the first 5, 10, 15 minutes, I think it'll go a long way to dulling the Argentinians' influence of their enthusiasm and their passion and their pride, and set the tone for the remainder of the match. And that's got to be a focus for them as well. They can't just expect to go out there and throw the ball around like a game of touch. The Argentinians are a very proud, very strong, very robust team, and if you give them a sniff, they're nearly impossible to control.
All right, that should do us for this week. Nathan, it's been a pleasure on debut. Very impressive. And to everyone else, enjoy the footy this weekend. This is the 6th episode of In the Know, thanks to GIO and Sporting News. See you next week.